This is Artis Wodehouse again, and here's the empty case to the instrument that Louis came over to work on. And this is an instrument that I discussed in the most previous video, contrasting the normal harmonium to the list organ. And the reason I'm having Louis here is because this instrument still needs work, although it's been worked on to a considerable extent in preparation for a recording that I'm going to be making of the complete Arthur Bird materials for this instrument, his complete music. So Louis is going to tell you where he's at right now and give you an idea of what he's doing and why it was necessary to do it. And I want to also make sure people understand just how much work it takes to get these instruments to good performance condition.
Where to start is always a problem. And especially when you come to an instrument in which have many persons already worked on, and you have to find out where is the problem and how can I solve it with all the goods and materials I have with me as good as possible, because there are things you never expect. In this case, it's a suction system made by Mason Hamlin, which is somehow quite complicated if you have also with the automatic swell system on it. And in this case we have a lot of troubles with wood parts, glue joints. Well, the joint itself is broken, so the glue is no longer in its strength. But also other spots, wrong gasket material for closing a system, screws not tight enough, and then many cracks and never replaced letters in which should have been replaced. So in that sense I can say yes, it's a problem. And how to manage that you get the air back, that a system will work properly. Well, till so far we could do it like this, but we have to use modern screws because I don't have the original screws anymore, and Home Depot, which is nearby, is not an old-fashioned hardware shop. So in that sense said, I have to figure out to do it the best way, but it should have been done in my workshop, in which I have all the original screws. For approximately now, I think, more than 1,000 kilo of original screws in the original packages from America, Sweden, Finland, Italy, France, England, the Dutchess of course, Belgian screws, it's amazing, German screws, it's amazing what they have made all over the world. So you want to have the original screws. Well, we are now busy with inside here that the roller where the belt is laying over, it's much too smooth. It needs to be rough, that the roller will roll where the belt is coming over. And so I'm doing that with my own made knives. I make these knives myself, that I can scratch the smooth away from it and that it gets nicely rough, but not super rough, rough enough. So in that sense, it's easy to do. And later you clean it with a vacuum cleaner. So this is one of these things, but I can feel he doesn't turn properly. He's a bit too heavy, so with a drip of a very special oil, which is not a real oil, but that can take away the grease and refine the old grease in that matter, that he will turn easier again. And then after it will dry up and the old grease will work again properly. So that's one of these things you need with you. But on the other hand, I miss also stuff I don't have with me. Now I had to figure out how do I solve a problem. Until so far it goes well. Because if you don't have your big clamps with you, how do you clamp a piece of wood? Well, you search for something else. You have to be an inventor, or probably a reinventor, because in the old days they did do probably the same. This instrument missed quite some screws in the cabinet, and you try to solve that problem, but the only screw you can find is a modern screw. Well, if there is nothing else, you do it. It needs to fit. And it works. Of course, a modern screw, but the way they made these original screws, they have a stronger tightness in that type of wood. So let's change this bellows system with foundation board, that we can has covered this wood with a mix of chalk and gum, Arabic gum. We never use in a harmonium. It's pipe organ, for pipe organs, because we don't need it. What you have to figure out is all these glue joints. If they are not really fitting, you can put anything on it, but it doesn't work. And this new single bellow cloth was glued over the stuff. So we take it away a bit and we glue leather in the corners so that we get that closed system, because Mason Hamlin was clever to avoid shrinking or expansion of wood. Two pieces of wood not glued together but with a certain distance, and you put then bellow cloth or leather over it, which can expand or shrink by putting it a little bit in the how do you call that? Not a crack, but you call that an well, anyhow, the two pieces of wood are glued around a quarter of an inch from each other. But now we have another problem. The original old leather with felt under it from Mason Hamlin, which is absolutely the top to have a closed system for the action on the foundation board. As we can see, it's old, it doesn't fit anymore, it's hard in edges, pieces are completely gone, it doesn't do its job anymore. So one of the leakages we also found. Till so far, also the bellow itself here behind is now placed on the foundation board with the original screws, but two extras here on the edge. Why? The foundation board is a little bit round, just a little bit, but far enough to make leakages on the edge or the side of the bellow mouth. So we use the original screws, of course, but instead of using that very thick hard leather which somebody has placed on it in the past, I'm using a leather from goat. It's called gasometer leather, which is extremely strong but also still nice to use for gusset leather. And I have placed it there, thin in the middle, thick on the outside, to get a bit away from the rounding of the foundation board, and then screw it together, and now it's completely tight. One of the places where you can lose air in a suction system. And we have had many. Mason Hamlin, for instance, his most common place where you get a leakage is here. And on the opposite side, exactly the same. That will always, that glue joint will always stop someday. And you have these holes here, and then you know you have an extra leakage underneath. So this one is now repaired, that one is now glued again, this top is glued again. Lucky this one is still closed, but we will use leather here on the side, and not like Mason Hamlin also did, just a piece of bellow cloth in the corner with two nails, because it doesn't really do its job. Leather is the best. That was one of the places. So we have found one, two, or here 2 and 3. We found the bellow mouth, that was completely wrong. We found 2 holes in the new bellow cloth on the side where screws have been placed but didn't use these holes. And then the front of the feeders, that is original Mason and Hamlin, but somebody replaced this, so I made them shorter and 2 new springs on it, that you get the real distance and the move of these feeder bellows. Because if you do this, you can see them move nicely outside, but if you play quick with the bellows, the underside will also move a little bit. The The most important thing is that they come back quickly, and they didn't. Also underneath this plywood you need leather. The new leather that was placed there, they used a system that every organ builder or harmonium or builder or restorer never should do, to glue the leather completely in its width. You always glue a certain part, and the outside with suction. You never glue the outside. That when you put your action on top of this foundation board, Mason Hamlin was so perfect that you did not need one single screw, that the foundation board will suck itself to that the action will suck itself completely to the foundation board, because that's the trick. And then you put the screws in to keep the action on its spot. That's the only thing you need with Mason and Hamlin. I think Mason Hamlin was one of the top engineers in building reed organs, because a 1 manual, a 2 manual or a 3 manual with pedals, you all can step inside quite easy. So they're easy to open, but you need to know how. That's all. Anyhow, this instrument is now that far that I have to take away these leathers and the felt and to replace that the same way as Mason Hamlin did. But now I have a problem. I don't have enough leather with me in that width. So I will make a choice to make 2 lines of double leather, but on one side, on one of the long sides, glued with a stripe, is that correct? Or a line of glue. And therefore you have your tubes. Oh, don't think this is wood glue. Or I use these old tubes because that's easier to use. But inside you have a mix glue which a bookbinder has. It's a mix of PVAC made in the 60s and starch. Starch made of wheat. Because in a restoration you need to make things that are reversible. So your glue need to be reversible for these sort kind of things. There are spots in an instrument you shouldn't have any replacement at all, because if it's well done made, it never will split. So that sort kind of glue is not a main problem. You can use a stronger one. But in all these other places you need a reversible glue. Starch, you put water on it and it will open the glue again and you can take it away easy. So I will glue that with a line, and that makes it so easy because the line is so easy. You can put it in your hands. It's not poison or something, because it's white glue, but it's not white glue as people know for furniture or that sort of kind of stuff, because you cannot glue furniture with this.